Hi, I'm Richard. I am 68 years old. For personal reasons, I would like to keep our privacy by changing the names of everyone in this story, including mine. The last thing I remember before dying was the word Amen. The first thing I learned on the other side was a truth so devastating about political power that I'm still trembling. Jesus himself revealed what the pursuit of influence does to the human soul, using Donald Trump as the perfect example. I came back with a message I never wanted to carry. Before we begin, if you believe God can still reach you, even in your darkest moments, please comment where you're from. I'd love to know I'm not alone in this. I died at home in my study in the evening November 2024, while I was quietly praying. Let me take you back to before that time. Before I met Jesus, I was lost in a world that was very different from this one. I was a politician for most of my life. For almost 25 years, I was a member of the Iowa State Legislature. People told me I was good at what I did, practical. I was good at negotiating and could tell what was going on in a room. I won elections, gave speeches, and shook hands. But behind the polished smile and the campaign slogans, there was a man who was slowly falling apart. I used to say I did everything for the people. But to be honest, it was mostly for me, for the power, the compliments, the feeling that I was important. It started with small compromises. I'd vote a certain way because it would mean I could stay in my seat a little longer. I'd flatter a lobbyist because I needed his money. I learned how to make excuses for almost everything over time. I told myself, it's the game. Everyone does it. But I was getting smaller on the inside. I gave up parts of my soul for the handshakes and headlines. You might know what it's like to chase success, only to realize too late that it has cost you everything that really matters. The first thing that went wrong was my marriage to Linda. God bless her. She married a schoolteacher who had strong beliefs. Over the years, she became the lonely wife of a man who only came home to talk about polls and strategy. I missed anniversaries. I didn't keep my promises. I told a lie. I cheated once, early in my career, during a campaign. I told the truth later, but something between us broke that never fully healed. We had 3 children, Jason, Ella, and Mark. I really loved them, but I wasn't there for them. Sure, I went to a few birthday parties, but real presents, listening, putting them to bed at night, I gave my career those times. And they grew away from me as they got older. Now, they only call on holidays, and even then it feels forced. I don't talk to Jason very much because he lives in Colorado. Ella is a school counselor in Illinois. She says politics burned our family down. Mark, he's from Michigan. It's been more than 2 years since we last talked. I don't even know the names of my grandchildren. I don't blame them. I chose the public over the private over and over again. Everything got quiet after I retired. No more interviews, no calls, no calendar full of meetings. Just quiet. And in that quiet, everything started to feel heavy. Some nights, I would sit in my chair with a drink in my hand and look out the window, wondering if it was worth it. I started having trouble getting to sleep. When I woke up at 3 a.m., my chest was tight and my heart was racing. I remembered things I wanted to forget, like bills I supported that hurt people, alliances I made that ruined lives, and people I ghosted when they stopped being politically useful. One night, I saw a news clip of a church rally where people were waving Trump flags instead of crosses and chanting more for a man than for God. It hit me hard. I remembered the meetings, the deals, and how we all went along with the political wave instead of asking if it was right with God. I voted out of fear, not faith. I had praised bravery even when it meant being cruel. I had kept quiet when the truth told me to speak. Something inside me broke, not out of anger, from sadness. I began reading the Bible again, at first, slowly. Just a few lines every morning, then even more. I didn't get everything, but I wanted it. I didn't want to die with this void within. I also started praying again, but not fancy prayers. It's just me, whispering in the dark, "God, do you even see me anymore? Do you still want me?" That leads me to the night I died. There was no noise. Linda had gone to sleep early. The only light in the house was the soft light in my study. I was reading Romans 12 in the Bible. Don't let this world change you. That part always hit me like a train. I knelt down next to my desk, which I hadn't done in years. I said sorry to God, not in a speech but in tears. I told him that I had chosen pride, power, and politics over faith, family, and truth. I told him I didn't know who I was without all of that. I told him that I was scared. Not of death, but of dying without ever having lived the right way. My chest hurt, sharp, out of nowhere. I fell forward, with my head on the carpet and my hands still folded. The pain hit hard and fast. But strangely, I didn't freak out. I knew what it was. My dad passed away from a heart attack when he was 70. Same look, the same signs. Not the legislature, the campaigns, or the awards were my last thoughts. It was about Mark, my son. I could picture him at 8 years old, standing on the porch and waiting for me to come to his school play. I didn't show up. That moment has stuck with me for years. And then it all went dark, but I wasn't gone. Something happened next that I still don't fully understand, but I know in my bones that it was real, and everything changed. It all went dark. At first, I thought that was it, only darkness, silence, an end. I thought I was still lying on the floor of my study, but something didn't seem quite right. I was no longer in pain. The heavy, sharp weight in my chest was gone. In fact, I couldn't feel anything at all. No heartbeat, no breathing, but I was still somehow aware. Then something happened that I'll never forget. I saw myself. I was lying on the floor with my arms bent in an awkward way, and my glasses crooked next to my head. My body looked pale and still, like a coat that someone had taken off and left behind, and I was floating, maybe a few feet above the ground, maybe more. I wasn't scared, even though there was no gravity and no floor under me. I should have been scared, but instead, I felt a strange calm, like I had just come out of a storm and into the eye of it. There was no noise, still, safe. I remember thinking, so this is death? And then the questions started to come in fast. What about Linda? What comes next? Is this where I will be? Something pulled me up before I could finish that thought. Not like being carried by the wind or pulled up by a rope. It was softer than that. Being asked to come. Things around me started to fade away, and I was being pulled towards a light. I know that sounds like a cliché, but I want to be clear. It wasn't just a light. It was alive. It was deep, warm, and purposeful. I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. The closer I got, the more I felt it. You know that feeling when you walk into your childhood home and everything smells like it did when you were a kid? The old books, the wooden floors, and the air after a storm? It felt like that, times 1,000. It felt like I was going somewhere I belonged, even though I had never been there before. Colors started to shine around me, brighter than the sun and softer than candlelight. There was gold, but not only gold. Blues that sounded like music. Whites that were full of life. It all pulsed like it was alive, like the sky was breathing. The floor came next, crystal. It was clear as glass, but it glowed from below. Every step echoed without sound, like truth that lasts forever. I looked down and saw not just pictures but memories reflected in it. Parts of my life. When I missed my daughter's high school graduation, I saw her quietly crying in her room. While I was getting ready for a debate, I saw my son Jason trying to call me. Linda was sitting alone at the dinner table, staring at the clock and not eating. Every thought hurt me, but I couldn't stop moving. Something was pushing me forward, and then I saw him. It was just light at first, shining, strong, but as I got closer, I could make out a shape in the light. A robe that sparkled like the night sky, with stars woven into the fabric. He wore a crown on his head. At one point, it shone like gold, and at another it turned into thorns, and those eyes of his. They looked at me like they knew who I was. Every single part, every lie, every hurt, every failure, and every prayer said out of guilt. But they didn't judge anyone, only the truth. Just love. I fell down. I didn't mean to fall politely to my knees. I fell apart. I fell down and cried like a child. After my father's funeral, I cried like I hadn't since I was a little boy. "I apologize," I said over and over again. "I'm so sorry." I couldn't look at him. How could I? I had spent my whole life trying to get men to praise me, building kingdoms of ego and hiding behind politics and polished speeches, and here I was, broken in front of the King of Kings. Then I felt it. There were two hands on my shoulders, strong but soft. I looked up and saw him, Jesus, not just a character from stained glass or Sunday school. He was real, grand, wonderful, but still, be gentle. He got down on his knees next to me. "Richard," he said, "my name." It was said with more love than I'd ever heard it before. I couldn't stop crying, I couldn't stop moving, but he held me, like a dad holding a scared kid, like a friend who never gave up. I felt safe. I feel truly and deeply safe for the first time in my life. He didn't start by saying bad things. He didn't write down all of my sins. He didn't give a speech. He said, "I've been waiting for this moment." That broke me even more. "I failed," I said quietly. "I gave up the truth for power. I ruined my family. I turned politics into a god." He didn't say anything. He didn't tell me what to do. He just looked at me with eyes that saw everything and still loved me. He said, "The world told you that power would make you whole, but love is the only thing that can do that." As he spoke, the air around us sparkled. It was as if the air itself carried his words. Every sound hit me like healing rain. After that, he helped me get up. There were no walls there, just light and space, and a reason for being there. It seemed like everything in that world had a purpose. The silence said something. The light taught, and he was there. It wrapped around me like warmth after a long, cold winter. We started to walk, slowly, next to each other. At first, he didn't say anything else. "Please let me breathe. Let me feel." I looked at him and asked, "Why me? Why are you showing me this?" He looked at me, and I saw something heavy in his eyes. Not mad, not sad, sadness. A deep sadness, not just for me, but for a world full of lies. "Because," he said softly, "you are not the only one." He didn't have to say anything else yet, but I felt it. I knew that I was going to see something bigger than me. Something hurts. Something that is true. But at that moment, before any of that started, I was in the throne room, broken and held. Not worthy, but loved without conditions. I thought to myself, if this is all there is, it would be enough. But that wasn't all. Something was on the way. He was going to show me more. Jesus and I stood there in silence. The light around us pulsed slowly, as if even heaven was breathing more slowly now. I didn't know how long it had been. There was no clock, so there was no way to tell what time it was. Just being there, calm. But I could feel something changing. He was going to show me something, and I didn't know if I was ready. Jesus looked at me, his eyes steady, kind, and impossibly deep. "Richard," he said softly, "you asked for forgiveness before you died. I heard you." My lips shook. Did you forgive me?" His face stayed the same. He didn't move or frown. He just got closer, put his hand on my chest and said, "I loved you before you even knew what to ask." I broke down again. Not because of shame this time, but because of grace. Unbreakable, not fair. Grace that can't be stopped. He wasn't using my past against me, he was holding me. "But," he said softly, "there's more you need to see, because it wasn't just your story that needed to be healed." The area around us changed all of a sudden, not violently, but like a curtain being pulled back. The throne room became softer, and we walked next to each other, the crystal floor turning into something like glass that stretched across the sky. I could see Earth below us. But it wasn't pretty. It was broken. Churches that have flags instead of crosses. Angry faces in the pews. Families were fighting with each other. Father against son, sister against brother, over politics, while the gospel sat unopened on their coffee tables. During a fight about the election, I saw a man hit his wife. I heard a pastor talk about candidates more than about Jesus. Because of lawn signs, I saw neighbors blocking each other's driveways. I saw people use the Bible to justify being mean. I saw others walk away from their faith completely because they couldn't stomach what it had become. I was embarrassed and turned away. I was a part of this. Jesus nodded, not to condemn, but to agree with what was true. "You were," he said, "and so were a lot of other people." I quietly asked, "What happened to us?" He looked at the broken pictures and said softly, "You stopped seeing me as king." I felt a chill run through me. Not fear, but belief. He went on, "You lost your way when you started to worship political power more than my presence. Your heart hardened when you chose to be loyal to people over being loyal to the truth. When fear made you do bad things to win, you forgot who you were." He wasn't mad, but what he said hurt more than any punishment. I looked at the vision below. "Is this who we've become?" "It's what happens when fear becomes a nation's god and pride becomes its fuel," he said. I was quiet for a long time. Then I asked, "Didn't it get worse when Trump was in charge?" Jesus stopped. "Trump didn't make the illness happen, he revealed it." That really hurt me. Your people wanted a strong man more than they wanted a heart that was open to you. They wanted someone to fight their enemies, not someone to help them love their neighbor. "But he gave people a voice," I said weakly. "He gave them what they thought they needed," Jesus said, "but not what their souls really wanted." I saw the scenes change again. This time, there were pictures of Christians cheering violence, justifying lies, and defending corruption in the name of power or party. Jesus said, "You were one of them, Richard. Not with shame, but with truth. You kept quiet when you should have said something. You wanted power, not honesty." I nodded, and tears came to my eyes. I was scared. He looked at me with a lot of sympathy. "I know. I'm showing you this now because I don't want to punish you, but to set you free." I broke again. It shook my whole body, because I had known it deep down, but I put it away. That little voice in my head told me to ignore it. And now I was standing in front of the one I said I followed, looking at the mess I helped make. "I don't deserve to go back," I said quietly. "Exactly," he said. "And that's what makes grace so lovely." He took my hand and put it over my heart. "Richard, this wound you carry, the guilt, the failure, the regret, it can become a doorway, but only if you're ready to tell the truth. I don't know what to say. Tell them what I showed you. Give them an example of what it means to repent, not with shame, but with honesty, humility, and hope." Again, I looked down at earth. "People won't listen to me." "Some won't," he said in a quiet voice, "but some will. Even if only one heart comes back to me, it's worth it." I didn't say anything for a long time, just being in his presence. I didn't want to go. There was no pain here, no mix-up, no regrets, only him, only love. I looked at him, hopeless. "Please don't send me back. I don't want to go away from you." He didn't hurry to answer. He just put a hand on my shoulder again and said, "I'll always be there for you." But some blind kids need to hear their father's voice. I understood what he meant. Not just my 3 kids, but the thousands who had done what I did. The churches where I spoke, the political meetings I led, the young people I helped shape. So many of them were blind, not because they were bad, but because they were scared, just like I was. He said softly, "They trusted you. Now show them a better way." "But how?" "Begin with the truth, then love will lead." I took a deep breath. It would have been a shaky breath if I had lungs. "Can you help me?" "I already am." He reached out, and I felt warmth pour through me like fire and wind all at once. It filled up every hole in me, every single scar, every lie I had thought was true. I felt complete. Then he stepped back, and the stars on his robe danced like galaxies across it. His crown had both gold and thorns on it. He said, "Richard, my kingdom is not of this world, but I love it." Again, tears ran down my face. He smiled. "It's time." I looked at him one last time and said, "I'll go. For you, for them." The light around me started to get brighter. I could feel something pulling, not like before when I came here, but this time in reverse. I wasn't ready. "Jesus," I said. He moved closer and put his hand on my forehead. "You belong to me." Then everything was gone. I woke up with a gasp. It felt like someone pulled me out of the warmest, safest hug and threw me into cold water. My body felt strange, like putting on old clothes that didn't fit anymore. It was heavy, hurt, and limited. The first thing I saw was the ceiling in my study, the same old light, the fan that doesn't work anymore. I was lying on the floor with my cheek against the carpet. My chest hurt, but I was still alive. I was back. I wanted to scream, but not because I was scared. Sadness that I was no longer with him. Sadness that the perfect love, peace, and presence of Jesus were now behind me. It felt like being pulled away from home. But even though the pain got worse, I could still hear him say, "You are mine. Show them a better way." So I slowly got up, shaking, and said, "Okay, I will." The doctors were shocked. No damage to the brain, no heart failure that lasts. They told Linda it was a miracle. It was, but the real miracle wasn't that I lived. It was what God did to my heart. Everything looked the same, but nothing was the same. Linda sat next to my hospital bed and held my hand. She seemed older than I remembered. I'm tired, cautious, but still here. "I thought I'd lost you," she said. I cried. "I'm sorry, Linda, for everything." She blinked, not sure what to think. "What?" "I've been gone for years," I said, long before this heart attack. And I'm done looking for shadows. For a long time, she didn't say anything, but she squeezed my hand a little harder. When I got home, the first thing I did was cancel all of my speaking engagements, all of the work as a political consultant. Every meeting and every fundraiser finished. I opened my calendar for the first time in decades, and it was empty. I was scared, and it set me free. I began with small things. Every morning, I made Linda breakfast. Just some scrambled eggs, toast, and coffee, but I stayed with her. I paid attention, we talked a lot, about her field, her worries, her hopes. I learned that she still wanted to go to the Grand Canyon one day, so I made the reservation. We began to see a counselor, not to fix something that is broken, but to make something new. Then the kids showed up. I wrote them all letters, a real letter, not a speech or a former legislator tone. It's just me, their father, saying where I went wrong, asking for a second chance. 2 days later, Jason called me. We talked for more than an hour about his work, his daughter's performance on the violin, the mountains in Colorado. The next weekend, Ella came to see us. She started crying as soon as I opened the door. She said, "You sound different." I told her, "I feel different." Mark took longer, but he did send a text that said, "I'm willing to talk." One step at a time, that's all you need. Grace takes time. I began to show up. I read stories to my grandkids before bed. I found out what cartoons they liked best. I laughed with them, gave them a hug, they knew them. But it wasn't only family. I had to speak, not as a politician, but as a witness. So, I went back to the church I used to go to before politics got in the way. I asked the pastor if I could say something. The next Sunday, I stood in front of a quiet group of people and said, "I died. I met Jesus, and he showed me that I had made politics my God. I chose power over people. I let fear choose who I was loyal to, but Jesus still loved me." I told them about what he showed me, which was that flags were taking the place of crosses, about Christians caring more about candidates than about compassion, about the pain we were causing in his name. I said to them, "We are not Republicans or Democrats first. We are God's children. We need to start acting like it too." A few people left, some people cried. A few people came up to me later and hugged me so tightly that I could barely breathe. People found out. I began speaking at churches all over the state. Not about parties, but about feeling sorry, getting better, being humble. Now I live in a different way. I don't check my phone while I walk in the morning and watch the sun rise. I sit with people who don't agree with me and listen to them. I cry more easily. I forgive people faster. I hold Linda's hand like it's the most important thing in the world, because it is. I think about how Jesus died for everyone, even the angry ones and the lost ones. If you've made it this far in my story, you might be someone who has been through the same storm I was. Maybe you felt the pull of fear, the need to choose a side, and the urge to let anger take the place of compassion. You might have hurt people, or maybe you were the one who got hurt. But I want you to know that it's not too late. Jesus is still trying to get to you. He's not looking for the best. He wants your heart. You don't have to die like I did to hear him. You only need to listen. Listen when it's quiet, in the place where your pride goes away and your soul says, "God, I need you," because he's already there. In the end, the world I built on pride, fear, and influence fell apart. And I got something that will last forever, a heart that is turned back to God, a family that is slowly but surely getting better. I never thought I'd find a life of peace. I used to live for applause. Now I live for the truth. and I want you to know. Even the ones who have gone astray, Jesus still loves his children, especially them.